Hello and welcome to Indus News. Live from Islamabad, I'm Naila Shaja and these are the headlines. Another Indian farmer has committed suicide during a protest against the government's newly introduced farm laws. Protesters said the farmer took his life because the government had refused to listen to their demands. Farmers say dozens of protesters have died, several by suicide, since the agitation began in November. In the United States, the Democrats will introduce a legislation tomorrow in the House of Representatives seeking impeachment of President Donald Trump. In a tweet, Democrat Ted Louis said that there are 180 co-sponsors for the new article of impeachment. This comes after Wednesday's Capitol Hill rioting by Trump supporters. Indonesia says it has detected signals that could come from a flight recorder of the jet that crashed yesterday. The rescuers have also pulled out body parts, pieces of clothing, and scraps of metal from the Java Sea. A Boeing 737 with 62 people on board crashed into the sea shortly after takeoff from the capital, Jakarta. A breakdown in Pakistan's national power grid has plunged millions of people in darkness. Energy Minister Omar Ayub Khan says power has been restored in some regions and an investigation is underway to determine the cause. Officials say the countrywide blackout has been caused by a sudden plunge in the frequency of power transmission system. Brazil has reported over 62,000 new coronavirus cases and nearly 1,200 deaths in the past 24 hours. Mexico has registered more than 1,100 fatalities overnight, with the death toll crossing 133,000. In Pakistan, 46 more people have lost their lives due to COVID-19 overnight. That has pushed the death toll over 10,600. Globally, the virus has claimed 1.92 million lives and infected over 89.5 million people. And in football, Borussia Dortmund hammered RB Leipzig 3-1 in their Bundesliga encounter. Erling Haaland. For more news and details, stay tuned. We'll be right back after a short break. Welcome back. In India, another farmer has committed suicide during a protest against the new farm laws at the Delhi-Haryana border. Protesters say the farmer took his life because the government had refused to listen to their demands. They said that the 40-year-old farmer from the Punjab hoped his death would bring success to the movement. Meanwhile, India's main opposition party, Congress, has announced protests across the country on the 15th of January to extend its support to the ongoing agitation against agriculture reforms. The Congress slammed the government, saying that it is sold out to capitalists. Meanwhile, the Supreme Court will hear petitions against the contentious laws tomorrow. The United Nations Security Council members have rebuffed India's bid to secure leadership of the key committees of the Council. It comes after Pakistan has recently conveyed information on Indian terror financing and fake news propaganda. According to the state news agency, India failed to secure the chairmanship of the powerful Al-Qaeda and ISIS Sanctions Committee. India's bid to lead the Non-Proliferation Committee was also rejected. Despite intensive lobbying in New York, it also failed to muster support for assuming the custodianship of the Afghanistan file. An African diplomat said that the work of the Al-Qaeda Sanctions Committee is too important to be given in the hands of the Indians. China has called for the swift return of a soldier detained by the Indian Army at the disputed Ladakh region. The two sides are engaged in a tense military standoff since June of last year. 20 Indian soldiers were killed in clashes that broke out due to India's violation of the status quo at the disputed border. In the following months, the neighbors deployed tens of thousands of soldiers across Ladakh and the Tibetan Plateau. The two sides began formulating a disengagement plan in November to withdraw the troops and establish no patrol zones. The Taliban say the two sides of the Afghanistan peace negotiations have met and discussed the unification of their agenda. The Taliban spokesperson said both teams met on the basis of the decision of last Wednesday's meeting. In his tweet, spokesperson Mohammad Naeem said that the meeting was held in a good atmosphere. This comes after the Taliban warned that President Ashraf Ghani's resolve to remain in office was detrimental to the peace talks. The second round of intra-Afghan negotiations began on the 5th of January in Doha. The talks resumed amid an increased spat of violence in the conflict-hit country since November. Indonesia says it has detected signals that could come from a flight recorder of the jet that crashed yesterday. A Boeing 737 with 62 people on board crashed into the sea 4 minutes after takeoff from the capital, Jakarta. The Indonesian Navy says that it has retrieved debris including body parts, pieces of clothing, and scraps of metal from the Java Sea. The military says a signal from the aircraft has been detected which fit the coordinates of the last contact made by the pilots. It added that the signals have been detected from 2 points and directed an investigation as could be the black box. A rescue operation which includes 11 Navy ships and 2 helicopters is underway. The country's Met Office has warned a risk of heavy rain and strong winds that could hamper the search and rescue efforts. In the United States, the Democrats will introduce a legislation tomorrow in the House of Representatives seeking the impeachment of President Donald Trump. This comes after Wednesday's Capitol Hill riots by Trump supporters. In a tweet, Democrat Ted Louis said that there are 190 co-sponsors for the new article of impeachment. Louis said that there are videos of the speech where Trump incited the mob, which then violently stormed the Capitol. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi also asked members to draft legislation amid the invoking Constitution, the 25th Amendment. It allows for the stripping of powers from a president unable to fulfill their duties of office. Trump is the only United States president who is facing impeachment for the second time. The United States has lifted long-standing restrictions on contacts between Washington and Taiwanese officials. In a statement, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said the United States-Taiwan relationship will not be shackled by self-imposed restrictions. He said that the restrictions were introduced by the U.S. unilaterally to appease the Chinese government. Pompeo added that the restrictions were no longer valid. Taiwan's Foreign Minister Joseph Wu welcomed the announcement, saying that he was grateful. The move is likely to anger China and increase tensions between Washington and Beijing in the final days of the Trump presidency. Iraq has denounced the United States' decision of blacklisting the militia leader of a state umbrella group. This comes a day after Washington banned the head of Iraq's Popular Mobilization Forces, Faleh al-Fayyad. The United States Treasury accused him of leading militia that killed hundreds of protesters during a crackdown on demonstrators in 2019. It said that he had coordinated with Iran's Revolutionary Guards, but Baghdad's foreign ministry called the United States decision unacceptable and said that it will follow up with the current and the new U.S. administration on all decisions against Iraqis. Iraq is a close military ally of both the United States and Iran since the Washington-led invasion in 2003. Iran has threatened to expel inspectors of the United Nations nuclear watchdog if sanctions are not lifted by the 21st of February. Parliamentarian Ahmed Amir Abadi Farhani was quoted as saying this by several Iranian media outlets. The February deadline has been set by the parliament. In November, the parliament passed a new law that obliges the government to halt inspections of its nuclear sites by the IAEA and step up uranium enrichment beyond the limits set under the 2015 nuclear deal if sanctions are not eased. Iran's Guardian Council watchdog body approved the law on the 2nd of December, with the government saying that it will be implemented. It's now time for a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Brazil has recorded over 62,000 new coronavirus cases and nearly 1,200 deaths in the past 24 hours. The country's caseload has crossed 8 million, while the death toll has surpassed 200,000. Mexico has registered more than 1,100 fatalities overnight, with the death toll crossing 133,000. India's death tally has surged to almost 151,000 after 201 fatalities were reported in the past 24 hours. Meanwhile, mainland China has reported 69 new COVID-19 cases, more than double from yesterday's 33 infections. Globally, the virus has claimed 1.92 million lives and infected over 89.5 million people. In Pakistan, 46 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to 10,644. The health ministry reported 2,899 new cases overnight. The tally of infections has crossed 502,000. Said that there are more than 34,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on Health, Faisal Sultan, has expressed hope of acquiring a vaccine at the earliest. Meanwhile, a Gallup survey revealed that 7 out of 10 Pakistanis believe the government handled the COVID-19 crisis very well. A midnight breakdown in Pakistan's national power grid has plunged millions of people in darkness. Officials said that the countrywide blackout was caused by a sudden plunge in the frequency in the power transmission system. Energy Minister Umar Ayub Khan said that electricity is gradually being restored in some areas of the country. He said that an investigation is underway to determine the cause of the blackout. The breakdown is one of the worst that has hit the country. In 2013, Pakistan's electricity network broke down after a power plant in Balochistan province developed a technical fault. In Colombia, at least 7 people have been killed and 4 others injured in a tragic fire in the border city of Cúcuta. A fire broke out at 3 homes, rapidly destroying the properties along with 6 vehicles. Preliminary reports suggest that 5 of the 7 victims belong to the same family. Authorities are investigating the probable cause of the blaze. They suspect the poor condition of electrical wiring in a nearby building. President Arvind Duque has sent his condolences to the family of the victims. Scientists have found 2 dwarf giraffes in Namibia and Uganda. British medical journal says that the giraffes have been diagnosed with skeletal dysplasia. With an average height of roughly 16 feet, giraffes are the tallest mammals on Earth. But scientists were stunned when they came across 2 giraffes suffering from dwarfism. In 2018, scientists discovered an 8.5-foot giraffe in Namibia. Earlier in 2015, they also found a 9-foot, 3-inch giraffe in Uganda. The British Medical Journal says in both cases, the giraffes had a standard long neck but short, stumpy legs.
We were definitely all very surprised to see it, and then went about doing a little bit of research to figure out what was going on. Unfortunately, we'd probably need to do some genetic work if we want to understand more, but we can definitely tell that it is a dwarf giraffe.
For the latest news updates, you can follow us on our social media at Indus.News.